the Orioles are off to a rough start. Mm-hmm. And they had a tough series against Kansas City where actually starting pitching was good. It was good, except for the final day it was okay. Gibson, I give him okay. Like the team had a shot. They had a shot on Sunday, but Sagano and Dean Kramer did their jobs. Dean, best outing of the year. But Jim Bowden went on foul territory yesterday, Zach, and he talked about, well, do the Orioles just need a new voice in Baltimore after 33 games? And he gave a pretty clear answer of what he would like to see. So let's play that clip for you guys.
A manager in the middle of the season, does it change anything? And what's the thought process from a GM standpoint of why would I make this change? Brandon Hyde's been through the low times. Now he's in the high times. He hasn't changed his message. He hasn't changed. So why would I want to make a change in the middle of the year?
Yeah, great question. And I'm going to give you my answer. My answer as a GM is I don't like firing a manager mid-season. But if I do, I always have to take the position is your team better do better after you make it, or it's on you. It's on you. If you make a change and you don't start winning and the team doesn't go in a better direction, then it's on the GM and it's not on the manager. There are some times where a different voice is needed. I had a very mediocre team that was about a 500 team, and it was underperforming under Ray Knight, who was the manager at the time. And Ray Knight had our clubhouse very intense. They were very uptight. Pitchers were looking at him. If they'd go 2-0, they'd look in the dugout to see what his reaction was going to be like. And I didn't have a contending team. But I sat there and said, look, if I make a managerial change here, this team's going to do better. We're going to be more competitive. We're going to end the year on a positive note. I brought in Jack McKeon. I fired Ray Knight. And our team played over 500 the rest of the way. And it made a difference. So, again, I don't like in-season changes. But if you do it, it's got to make a difference. Now, when I look at Baltimore, and look, I've been vociferous. I've given you my opinion. Yeah, I would make a managerial change. And it's nothing against Brandon Hyde. He's taken them to the playoffs the last 2 years. I respect him. But I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the fact that my young players aren't developing and getting better and living up to my expectations. And sometimes it takes a different voice to be able to make an impact. So, maybe Brandon Hyde loses this job and he gets the next job and does better. Look at all the Hall of Fame managers that got fired, right? Joe Torre, Jim Leland, Tony La Russa. They all lost jobs, and they're Hall of Fame managers. Bobby Cox, same thing. He got fired, Hall of Famer. It's sometimes you just need a different voice. I don't like the direction of Baltimore, and I think change needs to be to.
So he thinks change needs to happen. So let's just play this game real quickly, okay? You want to let Hyde go. Zach, here are the options. First-year manager then, first managerial position in Major League Baseball, and Robert Chirinos, who just a few years ago, was a player himself. And now we've seen that. Stephen Vogt, right? Yeah. Stephen Vogt went from being a player to a manager. Then what a lot of people want to see, put Buck Britton there. Buck's been a manager in the minor leagues. What I'm saying right now is you're going to have inexperience from what you choose. This isn't like the Toronto Blue Jays where you have John Schneider and you have Don Mattingly if you let John Schneider go. You can go around baseball and look at guys that have been around and that can fill that position from a veteran standpoint. So there is a risk involved. But quite frankly, and I'm looking at this, on May 6th, as we're recording this, Zach, I still think it's premature to make any of those types of moves. Why? We're looking at the starting rotation. Hopefully you're seeing it round in the course here in May. But if they continue to underperform, the team's going to be in a tough position. I want to see if this lineup now of guys like Adley gets going. Jackson Holliday, who will break down here in a little bit, he gets going. And Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westbrook comes back, and they have a favorable month of May. Zach, I think we got to get through this month. We got to see what's going to happen here. And then you get to end of May and the team is doing well or not doing well, we can start to have more of a discourse. But after 33 games and really trying to say, a guy that's led the Orioles to the playoffs 2 years in a row and has had a winning season for 3 years, and this isn't me defending Brandon Hyde, Zach, in the sense that I like all of his decisions or the lineup changes. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you really have to think about what you're doing if you make a move like this right now, especially with who they have on their schedule here the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, May is the make or break month for the Baltimore Orioles. If by the end of May they're still sitting 6-7 games below 500, I think you have to make a move. If you're anywhere below that, you without a doubt have to make a move. If you end May 10 games below 500, at that point, it's just, I would just see what else can happen. I agree with what Jim said. If you make the move, you have to be sure that something positive is going to happen, because if not, then you're done. If Elias fires Hyde and then they all of a sudden drop even worse, it gets even more, the water gets even more murky. So like I said, I agree with everything Jim said about, especially with player development. I do not like the way that they're trending with player development. I think that they are sitting there not allowing guys to get to their full potential. I think Jackson Holliday, he should never be out of the lineup. He should be starting 140 games minimum for Jackson Holliday. I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care reverse splits. I don't care about any of that. He should be, I don't care that we need to keep Jorge Mateo from getting stale. He can play somewhere else. We can DH Gunner one day and put Jorge. There are ways to get Jorge in the lineup without benching Jackson Holliday every other day. I agree with that. I just think there's so many different things that at this point, the way that they are trending, if they do not turn this around and get back to like competitive in 500 by the end of May, they might just have, they're probably going to have to make a move or some sort of change somewhere. I mean, we've already seen the Rangers just fired their pitching or hitting coaches the other day. So, it is not, teams are starting to kind of get to that point where they're like, okay, this might be who we are. So we're seeing teams start to make moves. But I think it is at this point where right now, if the Baltimore Orioles continue on this trend through most of May, then yeah, I don't see another option. They're going to have to figure something out to try to get a new voice in there somehow.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say. On this May 6th, no. Because it's a huge gamble, especially when you're looking at what the Orioles have gone through. And also, Zach, I'm going to reiterate, I do not agree with everything Brandon Hyde does. I've talked to you about this. You and I have talked about this. And this is what I'm going to say in the breakdown, I'm glad that Jackson stayed so hot from Friday night to Sunday and he sat in between against the lefty. That bothers me, because when a guy's swinging it well, I want to see him stay in there. The other part, though, then that I can't put on Hyde, and this is where the offseason, if we're saying this, if your starters don't do well, you're in a damn bind from the jump. So what do you want Hyde to do? Hey, this is your lineup for your starters. And if they're not going 5 or 6 innings, you're in a hole, right? Everything else, you want to talk about lineups, you want to talk about playing matchups, sure, go ahead. It starts with the starting pitching, and then it starts with your all-stars going out there and hitting. We can talk about runners in scoring position and philosophies all day, and we know that isn't good, right? But the bigger concern for me is for an offense of talented players isn't performing. So is that part on the manager, or is that part on just the players? As a guy being a player, and they'll tell you the same thing, if they don't go out there and hit, they know that they're costing someone else their job. So I think that the Orioles players are going, damn, we're better than this. And then the reality sets in. If the Orioles players don't play well in May, Zach, and the team is 15 games under 500, then yeah, you're going to move in a different direction. But I just caution right now, 7 games under, 5 games out. It's not like the Yankees are running away with this thing. Nobody in the American League East is running away with this. So it's a moment here over the next 3 weeks that are going to be so vital for the team is, can you gain momentum? And if you can, then we can table this conversation and you go, and we talked about it, Zach. This is the reality too. If the Orioles don't win in the playoffs this year, or they don't get there, you're going to see changes. I can guarantee you that. You're going to see changes. I'd also make one more point here, Zach. If Freddie Gonzalez was still here, I would have a little bit of a different opinion about what the leash would be. Because why? Freddie Gonzalez has been around for a while. Freddie Gonzalez has been around a big league team. He's had success elsewhere. As much as I love the concept of an up-and-coming team, go look around Major League Baseball and some other rosters besides the Guardians